All right, guys, we are back with my good friend, Mr. Kevin Leach. How you doing today, sir?
Hey Jared, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, good to see you again. It's been well, since I guess Total Archery Challenge. I got to see you last, but how's everything been going?
It's been great. As is typical here at Latitude, the summer, the back half of the summer going into fall here is incredibly hectic. Seems like we always feel like we're behind on a bunch of things to get them out the door and make them available for people, but it's all for good reasons. Things are going really well, and I'm super jacked about hunting season being right around the corner here with our October 1st openers here. And my fall last year got kind of blown up a little bit. I did get to hunt a decent amount, but had some things come up at work that required my attention. So kind of looking at this fall's redemption tour 2024 for myself. So we'll see what happens, but I'm excited about it.
Okay, so what's to say there won't be another wrench thrown in your gears come, October 1st, October 10th? Like
Yeah.
how are you not gonna have the rodeo October with Latitude this fall? How are you prepared for that?
Well, I think last year was unique in that the wrenches that were thrown our way were somewhat out of our control, even though they were our responsibility. And the lack of control in those areas is no more this year. So, kind of across the board, we kind of have a little bit more of control our own destiny, essentially operationally as a business, and so kind of makes it more predictable where we're going to be at and prevent those sorts of unforeseen things at a higher rate, at least. Now, something certainly should or could come up, but I think we're in a much better place than we were last year. And as we were talking off air here before we started recording, just trying to shorten up the to-do list here in September as much as possible, both on the home front and at work, and then be able to get out in the woods and hopefully do a little bit of traveling this year, which I did not do any of last year. So
Okay. Well, I want to hear about that as well. It sounds like you got some good plans in the mix. But first, before we do that, we like to start off these episodes with a little bit of a backstory on you personally, where you're from, maybe where you went to school, go blue, all that good stuff. What do you, whatever we can just paint a little bit of picture about who Kevin Leach is, and then we kind of
yeah.
it kind of helps throughout the conversation. So,
Yeah, happy to. So Kevin Leach, born and raised here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, the west side of the state. I live here now as well. Went to the University of Michigan for college, so go blue, as you mentioned. I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to play football there. Was, just I guess I was on the team. I got to play a decent amount for how I joined the team. I was a walk-on originally, a preferred walk-on, and I had buddies that got recruited, got put on scholarship, but weaseled my way onto the team, I guess, and got on the field a decent amount for where I started. So that was really cool, big learning experience. And it's been a fun 3 years being, Wolverine. We'll see what happens the rest of this year. Might be a little bit of a tougher year since they lost everybody, but
yeah.
nonetheless, I'm sure they'll grow and get where they want to be. But yeah, so I did that. Also went to graduate school at University of Notre Dame. I'm actually grew up in a Notre Dame family, so I guess I went back to my roots. I'm a Catholic, so um, grew up a huge Notre Dame fan. I was third generation to go to college there.
Oh
So I,
wow.
I raised some eyebrows initially going over to Ann Arbor, and then circled the wagons and got my final stamp of approval down in South Bend. Um, so that was a fun year, a little bit over a year down there. But since then, professionally, I started out actually in technology after that. Between the two schools, I worked as a mechanical engineer at Whirlpool a little bit in product development. And then after grad school, I went into tech and spent 7 years at Microsoft. Variety of roles there in consulting and sales. Working with what they consider their enterprise level customers, their biggest customers locally in Michigan and the Midwest. So, they talk about companies like Dow Chemical and Ford and GM and Whirlpool actually went back and they were a customer of mine. So got to get exposed to a lot of different things at a lot of at scale, frankly. and learned a lot from the technology side of things and how businesses run and operate and how they scale up and where there's deficiencies and why. And ultimately, tech is tech, but it's a people problem at the end of the day, is what I learned coming out of that. But that was great. I didn't have a tech background prior to that, so I just learned a ton. Then the latitude thing started, and I think when you had Jake on the other week, he kind of hit this. So I'll just briefly touch on it. But I was actually at Microsoft traveling every week. The account I was covering, I had to stay out of town every week in a hotel, and it was a smaller town here in Michigan. And I kind of ran out of things to do pretty quickly. And I had been, we had been messing with saddles for a while, and kind of tweaking them to our liking. And I just started to kind of take it to the next level because I had time on my hands. Brought a sewing machine up with me each week,
Nice.
blew them up, every couple of weeks, returned them, sent them back to Amazon, got another one, and just started building kind of our own version of what ultimately became the method, 2-panel saddle. And did that for probably about 3 or 4 months before I showed anything with Alex and Jake and had them try it, and they saw the value in it and what made it different and better and what problems it was solving, and they jumped on board at that point. And we just worked on it then for, I think it was a total of just under 2 years before we launched the company. So the product was actually worked on very extensively prior to coming to market. And the background for all three of us is just, we're just guys that like to bounce around, mobile hunt, public or private. Most of it's been on public historically, just because we haven't had a lot of access to private lands, either through families or friends. So it was just kind of a way of life, and always has been and still is. And so really we're our own customer, and we just love building gear that solve problems for ourselves. And we decided to kind of polish them up, put them out there, and see if anybody else could find value in those tools as well, the way we wanted to build them, and they did. So it kind of just took off from there, and now we're coming into our 5th fall. We're a 4-year-old company as of July, which is pretty crazy to think about. We've got a small team that is amazing, and work with a bunch of great partners now, like yourself. So that's kind of me. I've got a family with 2 kids. So my wife and I have been together for several years now. We've got 2 young daughters under the age of 3. One will turn 3 actually here in November, and then a 7-month-old. So life has been very hectic and crazy, starting a business, getting married, having 2 kids, all in the span of, 3 years, 4 years. It's been a little nuts, but a lot of positive things just all kind of coming together at the same time. So but outside of that, I mean, I've always been a very passionate whitetail hunter. I grew up with it. My dad's been like a public land guy here in Michigan for 50 plus years. He's got all the cool way back in the day stories before tree stands existed, and sneaking up on bucks and properties through culvert drains and stuff that's all like developed now here in the city of Grand Rapids. He used to hunt over by our airport, which was all fields and had pheasants forever, like it was North Dakota, and that's all kind of gone now. So you hear all those cool stories, and grew up around that. And he'd take me out, he'd always take me out tracking when I was real young. If he shot something, he'd take me out scouting in the spring. I just love kind of being out there shooting my BB gun at squirrels. And as I got a little bit older, I gravitated actually more towards fishing. I'm a huge fisherman, as well as are Jake and Alex. We do a lot of salmon, trout, steelhead fishing here in Michigan, because we have access to that with the Great Lakes systems. And I was an athlete growing up, obviously, so that consumed a lot of time, and fishing was just a little bit easier to work into the schedule. There wasn't any preparation for it. You could just go. And then with the football thing, obviously, it sucks up a lot of time in the fall. So I didn't really dive in heavy on the whitetail thing myself on my own, kind of without tagging along with my dad until after college, because I just didn't have the time. But it's been my biggest passion since then. Just kind of, when you're an athlete and then all of a sudden you kind of lose that thing that scratches that competitive itch that you've done forever. I mean, I played football when I was 8. I started when I was 8 years old, up through 22.
Wow.
You know, and then all of a sudden, poof, it's gone. It's like a part of your identity is gone. And you know, the hunting thing, while you're not, I don't, I don't look at it as competing against anybody else. It's competing against the animal and yourself, really. It, for me, scratches that competitive itch, and I just love it. So um, it's a little bit of a long ramble, but that's kind of me and where the
Love it.
company started, and who we are as people, and hopefully that kind of touches on that for you.
Oh, nailed it. Nailed it. I don't know how you don't have more gray in your beard like I do with the young girls and everything else starting a company. Um, I don't know about
I,
you though, but that 2 to 3 age or that 2 and 3 age was my favorite age. I know people, terrible twos or whatever they call it, they're so darn cute at that age, the little girls. I wish mine were, they're all 10 and tall now, so
yeah,
it's such a great age, man.
I totally agree. I mean, there's definitely some terrible twos mixed in there for sure. On any given day, it can happen, but yeah, they're a blast. Really enjoying that. Love being a dad, and try to be around as much as I can. So you know that obviously impacts whitetail hunting a little bit, but it doesn't matter to me at all. I love being around them and being their dad.
No, I couldn't agree more. And we talked a little bit about that before we hopped on here. Here's a question that kind of came to me while you were talking. When did you harvest your first deer along the path of your age and then, football and everything else? When did you get out and were able to slide in there and maybe get that bug bite?
It wasn't until right after college.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Gotcha.
literally it was I was little. I tagged along probably till I was 7, 8 years old.
Yep.
Um, I don't know what it was. Like maybe my dad didn't feel comfortable at that age putting a weapon in my hand. You know, I would get like kind of kids' bows and stuff. He was always an archer. He did gun hunt, but he was more archery back in that time frame. And then I kind of gravitated away from it for a while. So kind of
Gotcha.
that probably 9, 10 years old through college, it was like fishing, fishing, fishing. I was big
Okay.
into it. I've done tournament fishing out on Lake Michigan for trolling for salmon and competed in that stuff, and was really big into the river stuff. Was all over the place doing that. Done it out west, so um, I didn't really kind of get back into doing it on my own and then harvesting on my own until after college. So
I
yeah,
guess
the early
I was
early 20s.
curious. No, that's perfect. And like for me, I was tagged along very young as well, and we never saw a lot of deer. It was always state land, Manistee National Forest over by Hesperia. Um, typical gun hunter type stuff with my
Sure.
dad. But like I think not having a lot of success up front made me like really, really want it or appreciate it. And then I'm wondering like when you started, you didn't harvest till after college, but the fishing was part of that mindset, I think. And then you got
Hmm.
kids today. I'm watching the youth hunt pictures, not to go down that road, but there's giant 140s getting shot
Yeah.
by these young guys, and I hope that they stick with it and they don't. I had to have some suck, is what I'm saying. That really made me, I think, want it still to this day more than ever. You
Oh,
know.
I totally agree. I think it makes you appreciate it more. And through tagging along with my dad, like he was just a public land guy, like just hunted public land,
Yep.
within an hour or so of Grand Rapids, essentially forever. It always has. And so he had kind of his little wall in our unfinished basement with all of his, like I think probably all but two or one, I think all but one buck that he's ever shot. He just saws the antlers off, right? And they get screwed up onto the 2x4s in the
Oh yeah.
unfinished wall in the basement. Um, the only one he ever got mounted was probably like a, I don't know, 115-inch 8 point. And that's kind of like his trophy. And the rest of them, there's everything, you might imagine underneath that. And they're all great deer. And he'd always keep his arrow that he shot the buck with if he found it. He had a little spot up in the ceiling. It's still there. It's just like a pile of arrows stuck into the rafters, like into the insulation.
Nice.
And you can pull them all out. Some of them still got the dry blood, and they're bent aluminum arrows, most of them. And so my perception of it growing up was that it was really hard. And he used to hunt with a recurve a lot too. I mean, he did kind of both, but he learned on a recurve. So again, he learned back before there was tree stands. So my perception of it is always very challenging to just get a deer, let alone the concept of going after a big buck was never a thing growing up. It was just a happy accident, really.
Right. Well said. Well said. Your dad sounds like the traditional Michigan guy, just like my dad, same thing. And I love it. I love it. Um, and now look at you. Now you're out chasing everything all over the
Yeah,
place. Got a company, full-time design behind it. I love it. I've been using your products for years now, so it's easy for me to talk about them. But this year you've came out with a litany of new things. Where to even start? I mean, it's like every week there's been a new launch. I love it. Let's talk about some of the new products you guys are coming out with, what you're excited about, and maybe what some of the problems they're solving are. You know, the
sure.
I got the Maverick sitting in my barn right now. Nice, very lightweight saddle right there. I'm gonna be running this fall. I always loved the method. I've always loved the two panel too. So where was this? And you got the Lone Star. So where are we at with saddles right now?
Yeah. Well, I guess as you mentioned, it's kind of the year of new product here at Latitude. A big part of that was, bringing Matthew Tompkins on board with the TX5 merger. He brings just a ton to the table, within the team from a product development and design standpoint. So a lot of the new stuff this year has been through collaborating with him. We certainly, bring our ideas to the table and work with him on that, and vice versa. So it's kind of a mix. But yeah, the saddles. So we've had two new saddles come out here over the last month to 6 weeks here, end of the summer. We've always had that Method 2 panel series that we're really known for that as kind of a class leader in that two panel space, and two panels are awesome. They really solve fundamentally a very specific problem, and that's, you can get a saddle that's very comfortable up in the tree because it has a ton of adjustability with the two panels, and some other things built into it. But it's also very lightweight and compact when your feet are on the ground or you're going up and down the tree because of the fact that they connect with magnets and overlap. So it's a very small profile walk around. People have always loved that. Um, Traditionally with single panels, they have to, in order to get comfortable, because there's less adjustability in them, the bigger they get, they tend to be more comfortable. Then you get kind of like this diminishing returns. Both of our new saddles this year are both single panel offerings. They're different, they're completely different styles though. So we look at, kind of saddles in three main categories. There's the two panel, as I mentioned. There's the lightweight single panel, and that's really where that Maverick sits. And then there is what I would say a more comfort focused single panel. Typically it has like a pleat or some additional features that might make it a little bit bulkier or heavier than the lightweight single panel, but it's tailored much more specifically for all day comfort, if that's, a priority for you. So the Maverick was the first one we came out with, and as I mentioned, it is designed to be like the Ferrari, Corvette, whatever you want to call it, single panel offering. It's only 20 ounces. Both of these new ones, they have, the metal-free rope belt as our Method 2 had. We carried that over, the removable leg straps, the adjustable bridge, all that stuff carries over. What makes the Maverick really unique, and the problem we were trying to solve with these lightweight streamlined single panel offerings, is it seems like whenever we've had people try those in the past with traditional construction, they either fit or they don't. Like they sit in it and it's great and they don't really have to make any adjustments and it just kind of fits. It's like they put the right size pair of pants on. But more often we would see, people kind of fidget and trying to get it to work for them. They'd get pressure points from the primary webbing straps that, go around the perimeter of the harness, and those straps hold most of your weight. And if that was happening, there really wasn't much you could do to make adjustment to get it to work and get it comfortable. So hot spots are, we found, much more common with that style saddle. So we're trying to figure out, hey, how do we get rid of that without creating a huge profile? Can we actually reduce the profile of this thing when we're walking around, and keep it super lightweight? So what we did with the Maverick, and this is what really separates it, is the primary webbing that goes around the harness, the perimeter of the harness, and that's what holds most of your weight. We actually went all the way up to a 4-inch wide webbing. So we were testing different widths and how do we construct this thing with these different size webbings, and at what point do those pressure points just sort of melt away? Because again, you don't have a ton of adjustability that you can do with the harness. And once we hit that 4-inch width is really where that kind of light bulb went off. And ourselves and other people testing them, they just the hot spots and the pressure points went away, kind of no matter their body size and shape, without needing to make any adjustments. So that is the main thing that makes the Maverick different than any other lightweight single panel offering on the market. Is we've beefed up to a 4-inch wide webbing, so that's double the surface area of the next closest, which just spreads out that weight and eliminates hot spots and pressure points that webbing traditionally causes. And you get the simplicity of that type of a harness coupled with that. So you get a really comfortable lightweight saddle. And you don't have to do a whole lot to get it to be comfortable and to work well for you. So if you're new to this, like this is what you want to look at probably from us with our 3 offerings, because you just sit in it and it works. Guys that are really serious that want to kind of focus more on the hunt and not worry about their gear are probably going to also gravitate towards this one, especially if they prioritize being lightweight and streamlined. That 4-inch webbing, it's kind of just magical. You got to sit in it to really see it and believe it and understand it. But it's a big deal. The added benefit, or we kind of fell into this once we figured that out, that the 4-inch provides, is because it has so much width within the structure. That bottom strap on the bottom edge of the harness, you can actually fold it up under itself. So this thing for walking in and out actually has the same profile as our Method 2 saddle, the regular size. So it's only like an 8-inch profile top to bottom. So not only did we get rid of the hot spots you traditionally have with a lighter weight single panel, we also improved the profile to match our 2 panel, which we've always loved. Our customers have always loved about the Method 2. And so you kind of get all of that. Really, the only thing you don't get versus like a Method 2 or a 2 panel is that integrated lower back support that you can have with the 2 panel. You need to add a back band accessory to get that. So there is a little bit of a personal preference decision to make between the 2, but the Maverick's our lightest offering. It's metal free. It's super easy to use, and then it's also at a great price point. So we brought the price down. We wanted to make bring that harness to a price that was a little more accessible for the someone that's getting started. So it's $199 for the harness, and like $320 for the starter kit, where you get your 2 ropes in the pouch to get going. So that is the Maverick. I worked on that, was kind of more between the 2, kind of more my project personally. Last year from a testing and development standpoint. We were working on that one kind of before we wrapped up the TX5 thing. We had kind of discovered this 4-inch webbing thing, and then worked with Matt to kind of get that incorporated into the construction in a much cleaner fashion and kind of take it to the next level. But for me personally, like I'm a thinner guy. I don't have a lot of junk in the trunk, so I don't have like the extra padding. So those type of harnesses, it's very easy for me to get pressure points. And like the number one test, like comfort test that we do on these things when we're working on them, is late season hunting in the snow here in Michigan. And it would be the same in any pressured state that's got a long gun season. But once you get into like mid-December here, there's no foliage. You can see for a mile, especially when the snow is on the ground. Everything's silhouetted, and you get those just dead calm. I actually hunt a lot of mornings that time of year. Once you get those like single-digit cold fronts, because a lot of times I found you can catch like a decent buck still that might have made it that far into the season, getting back just 5 minutes too late. So you get those mornings where there's just, you can hear a pin drop from 300 yards away, and they can see any sort of movement from like 3 to 500 yards away, depending on the terrain. So, being able to sit motionless without feeling the need to fidget or move or make an adjustment because of a pressure point is, it's critical to have any chance at success as a bow hunter that time of year, as you know. And, so this thing, we found that you could just sit down in and you never move for like 3-4 hours. So in those single digit temps. So that was a real eye opener for me personally, and kind of the biggest, I guess, tip of the hat to the design and its effectiveness. So that is
Awesome.
the Maverick.
I cannot wait to run that this year after hearing all that description right there. Um,
Yeah.
I love that it folds back up under itself like the method too. That's so awesome. And
You
then you
can
got
actually sit in it too when it's
that
folded
way.
up. Like if you're a smaller guy, you actually get like a single panel that's two different sizes. We only offer the thing in one size because we found like it works for such a wide range of people. Um, so if you're on the extreme edges one way or the another, you might have to make it work a little bit, but it's very rare we find someone that it doesn't fit very well. And just, you can sit into it when it's folded up too, and it's just a smaller seat. So if you're a smaller guy, it's like that might be all you need. Actually, Alex on our team runs it that way now, so he
Okay.
doesn't even deploy it when he's in the tree.
So that made me think of a question. Do you run the leg straps yourself or do you run no leg straps?
We always say use the leg straps. So
Got
we
it.
will it's definitely important to have the leg straps on. Just to, well, I don't wear them walking in and out. That's why they're removable.
Sure.
Is we hate them. We hate, like, they always constrict, right, when you're
Hmm.
walking in and out, and you're going through the thick stuff and bending over, and whatever, going through the crap. So we always just pop them on at the base of the tree, and that's the intent of why they're removable. But always suggest you have them on up in the tree. Um,
Okay. Good to know. And then
yep.
you've also looks like you've got some licensing done with Realtree on a couple camouflage patterns for that one. That's pretty neat.
We did, yeah. That was a fun little project. We've always loved. I mean, I've been talking about my dad forever already on this thing. So we've always loved like the old traditional stuff, and
Yeah.
it from a hunting legacy standpoint, and it seems like it's coming back, right? The old camo patterns have,
Yeah.
have been springing up the last couple of years, and so yeah, we did the Maverick, our dump pouch that goes along with it, and the back band that couples with it or complements it very well, in both Realtree Original and Realtree Advantage Classic, which are kind of our two favorite old school ones. I, in
Yeah.
particular, love the Advantage Classic, the big leafy camo.
Yep.
It just makes me think of a magazine from back in the day, or
Yep.
the old mapping whitetails book. Every picture's got that stuff in it. So it just kind of brings us back. But they turned out looking pretty sweet. So we're excited about those. There is a couple color options and camo options now for the first time from us
Yeah.
in that one.
More new stuff that I was just like, more, wow, more and more and more.
Yeah.
So that's the
Yeah.
Maverick. That's what I'm gonna be running this year. Then there's a
Uh-huh.
Lone Star, which also you came out with
Yep.
this fall as well, or the summer as well, right?
Yeah, that one came out about 2-3 weeks after the Maverick. So the Maverick's kind of for that guy. Hey, lightweight, streamline. That's what I want. It's my number one priority. I'm gonna get great comfort out of this thing because of what it does and how it's built. So I'm not sacrificing too much there. But if you're more the person that's like, my number one concern about saddle hunting is being comfortable, or any hunting in general. Like I want to be cozy. Like this is the time off I have from work. I'm going to hunt my 1 week in the rut all day, every day. I want to be up there. I want to be comfortable. You know, the Lone Star is, it's a good chance that's the option from us for you that you might want to look at. Um, it's a single panel design. It's got a little bit bigger seat when you're comparing the regular size versus the Maverick. It comes in two sizes, both a regular and an XL. It has that same 4-inch webbing construction in the harness, but after that, it has a ton of comfort focus features added to it. That's everything else that's added to it beyond the Maverick is specifically to address and improve comfort even further. Um, it is actually a third generation of the Lone Star product. So the Lone Star is the brainchild and the baby of Matt Tompkins from TX5. He went through a couple iterations, and it was always known as one of the more comfortable saddles on the market. The 4-inch webbing was a huge change for it. Actually, when we had him first try that, he was like, "Wow, that's the biggest leap forward in comfort." Going from first generation to second generation, improve some things, and now to the third. he'll say that, hey, that's the biggest change. What we kept is some other things that he has worked or had in the product in the past that people love. So the biggest one being the HPR system, so the hip pinch relief system. And what that is there's actually kind of like a couple of like backpack like stays. So you think about like a lightweight frame in a backpack. There's a couple of those in the hip areas on the harness, and a couple additional pieces of webbing kind of sewn into where those are located up to your bridge loops. If you're not familiar with what bridge loops are, that's just the loops on the sides of the harness going up to the tree. Um, and basically what that does is instead of your weight being held by just the top and the bottom straps, which we have now widened to 4-inch, this HPR system pulls your weight throughout the entire body of the saddle, kind of top to bottom,
Wow.
which is very unique. There's nothing else out there really like it. People have always loved that in the 2.0 version. So we kept that. The way that I would describe how this thing feels to sit in versus like the Maverick is the Maverick is more form fitting. It contours around your body and spreads the load with the webbing. The Lone Star, because of that HPR system, it feels a little bit more like a chair, like you're sitting on top of it. It's got more structure. It's a little stiffer, the body of the harness. And then we also, on the inside, we have our airflow mesh padding. So there's a thin layer of very breathable. It's not hot. So if you hunt down south or a lot of early season warm weather type stuff, it does breathe very well. It's not the type of foam that's going to make you immediately sweat. But there's a thin layer of this airflow mesh padding on the inside as well. And that just adds a little bit of cushion to the ride. You kind of melt into it. And so you get that and the HPR. It's got a small pleat in it with a stretch material that allows this thing to just, kind of contour a little bit. So you get that. Those are the kind of the three things that take the Maverick, the amount of comfort you get with the Maverick, and take it to the next level. The seat is a little bit taller, as I mentioned, top to bottom. So, if you're a huskier guy or bigger guy or just big boned, maybe you're an tight end or something. We kind of find that the Lone Star on average, tends to maybe work a little bit better. The Maverick's very versatile, but everything's personal preference at the end of the day. But if you're a comfort first guy, Lone Star all the way. Some other differences between the two, the Molly row, there's a row of tight fit Molly with some ergonomically sewn lineman loops on the Maverick. Whereas like the Lone Star, you get 2 rows of Molly, you get a tight row on the top, you get a more open row on the bottom, so quick detach and attach. You get that added advantage with the Lone Star. Both of them, the lineman loops are covered with the same mesh we use in the body of the harness, which gives them a very tactile feel. So locating them in the dark, you can actually feel with your fingers like this is this right spot to clip in. So that's just a little safety feature that helps identify those versus your bridge loops or really anything else that you shouldn't be clipping into on the harness or not. So those are nice. But and then lastly with the Lone Star, it comes stock with our rope belt, our metal free belt that we're known for, that all of our saddles have and come with. There is, if you just prefer a buckle style belt at the end of the day, there is a channel built into the Lone Star so you can swap out. It is an added component that we sell separately. We have a belt for that, made with a USA made Raptor buckle, 1.5 inch wide, so it works well. But if you ultimately do want to switch to that, you can with the Lone Star, which that's the only one of our 3 options where you have that ability. So, and then 2 sizes, so covers a very wide range of individuals, and it's really the most feature rich option out there. Is kind of, Matt calls it the Sadillac, right? So you're, again, it's just comfort with that one.
Yeah. Well, you guys have clearly been listening to feedback and making products that fit, I don't know, every single part. Like the stuff you just covered is so in detail and technical for, things that you've ran into or your customers have ran into along the way in the saddle world. So that's just insane how detailed these are. I did see the seat belt there, the Lone Star saddle belt. People must have a couple requests for those too, huh? Along the way.
Yeah, so the Lone Stars always traditionally come with that.
Okay.
And with what we added to the Lone Star and changed, one thing I didn't mention, we actually lighten it up like 6 to 8 ounces, depending on the size, compared to the previous generation. So,
Okay.
which is significant. I mean, it's a half-pound lighter. But yeah, just people that prefer that, we didn't want to say, hey, we're not gonna have an option for you. We wanted to make sure that that ability was there. Now, a vast majority of people still use the rope belt, and seems like when people try that, they like it. But again, we just that last kind of 10% or so, we want to make sure that we had them covered, because we believed in the product so much. So
Perfect. Yeah, I love the rope belt personally. Just no metal, quiet, stays tight.
yeah,
I like that
yep,
thing.
totally agree.
All right, well, awesome new offerings in the saddles, guys. Now, if we're gonna talk to, I mean, we have a new platform as well, right? Do we hit everything on the saddles?
We did, yeah,
Okay, great,
yep,
great.
yep.
And then there's a new platform. I see two on the website right now. The Rebel, is the Rebel done?
At the moment, the Rebel's done. Yeah, yep,
That's what I'm
yep,
using still. Yep.
yep. That's still a great option.
Oh, I love it.
It it was always a lot of space, or a lot of real estate up there for the weight.
Yeah.
Being only 2.7 pounds. You know, I guess we can roll into the new platform. So the new platform is the profile platform. If you haven't looked yet, we did a small batch release of them a couple weeks back. They're going to actually probably start shipping. I don't know when this is going to drop, but right around the time this drops, they'll be shipping. But what we've learned with traditionally, our two platforms have been the Rebel, as you mentioned, and the X-Wing. And our Speed Series platforms are both machined aluminum here in the States, and they're expensive, but they create a really lightweight product that performs well on the tree. And they were wildly different options. So the X-Wing, if you're not familiar with it, it's just a crazy shape. It looks like a Star Wars ship. That's why we called it the X-Wing. But it wasn't just to make it look cool. It was all function, how we landed on that. And essentially what that does is it gives you great agility up in the tree to make tough shots, and to make those moves quickly. And there's some other benefits, get a wider resting stance with your feet out on the wings, and you can swing around the backside of the tree really nicely. So, but it comes down to, what that one is, agility, and it weighs only 2.5 pounds. And you feel like you got just as much real estate. It's just that real estate is not all in the middle. It's kind of spread into 3 locations, which is what makes it very unique. Almost too unique for some people, I'd say, and that's why we had the Rebel, which is much more traditionally shaped. Looks kind of like a tree stand seat, frankly, from an old lone wolf, but a little bit bigger. So you get good real estate. It's bigger than most standard size platforms by about 30%, but smaller than what most people would consider an XL platform. But it's also very light, so 2.7 pounds. So basically, you got a lot of real estate for the weight with that one, and the X-Wing you got, and it's all in the middle, as most people are used to. And then with the X-Wing, you get the agility up in the tree. With the profile, we wanted to try to take the best of both worlds and bring it into one product. And that's what we did with the profile platform. And then the wow factor that we added, that we wanted to solve, was we wanted to make this thing even easier to pack. They've always been lightweight. They've always packed decently, but we wanted to take that to the next level. And so the wow factor with the profile platform, and it's why we call it the profile, is that the post and the standoff fold up into the platform. And so this thing, when you're looking at it from the side, packed up, it has only 1.25 inch thick profile,
Wow.
which is pretty cool. Now, we had to go to a cast aluminum construction on the base of the platform to kind of get the geometry we needed to accomplish that. But what you get out of that beyond the packing is there's some things we did with the shape as well. I guess get the best of both worlds of the previous 2 platforms. So agility wise, this thing, it has concave curved sides. And so what that creates is you've got kind of corners on the front, corners on the back, and you got a nice surface out front. So you have 5 separate resting locations on this thing where you can kind of stagger your feet on either corner, or around all 4 corners, or have them out front. But when you're working off the sides, those concave curved sides, what they do is they lock in your feet and counter gravity. And so this thing, I'd say better than any other platform we've had, you can move around at 360 in a very slow, controlled manner. So this thing, you probably have more control than the other 2 options we have in the heat of the moment to make micro movements around the platform. But you also have all the surface area in the middle. So it's essentially the size of the Rebel with some concave curved sides, so that you have the agility of the X-Wing. And then lastly, probably the only other complaint, or really the only complaint we got around our Speed Series options is because they're machine aluminum, they've got some smaller, sharper edges on the perimeter. And so guys hunting day after day in the rut, they get some foot fatigue, right? You're leaning on those smaller edges, and it's just, you're putting all your weight on a small surface area. So the front of the profile actually has 2 things going on with the geometry. It's slightly angled down, and then it's not a straight edge on the front. It's actually slightly angled back away from you towards the tree, so it's a very shallow V. And so what that does is when you're resting your feet on that front edge, is it perfectly matches and fits the arches of your boots, and you get even pressure front to back. That's what the angle down does, and then also left to right on the bottom of your feet. That's what the shallow V does for you. If you had just a straight edge, you get all the pressure on the outside edges of your feet, even with the angle down. So we angle it back slightly, shallow V, and then it kind of fits your arches just perfectly on your boots. And this thing is like, I mean, it's super comfortable to put your feet on all day. It just gets rid of that foot fatigue, and it's just super comfy to hang out on. And then you have the agility, so you still feel ninja-like up in the tree to work around this thing. You feel like you can do anything you need to at any moment, but you're also comfortable while you're waiting. Which we all know we got to do a lot of that usually throughout the fall. So, so you get the packability, you get the agility, and then you get rid of that foot fatigue. It's got traction built into the top of the surface too, so it's great for that. The only trade-off is it's a little bit heavier because we went to the cast aluminum, but it's still only 3.4 pounds, and it's not a small platform. Like, there's a lot of real estate on it. But even though you're adding that little bit of weight and you're getting all those other awesome features and design elements, we did bring the price down. So it's only $209.99. Our Speed Series are $299, so it's $90 cheaper. So again, trying to make all this cool stuff we've baked into it, a little more accessible for folks. I'm really excited about it. It was a tough project, I will say. We had to redesign a bunch of things. We had to redesign our leveling mechanism. How do we get this thing to fold up into the platform? There was a bunch of things mechanically and with physics and all that, all the engineering stuff we had to kind of figure out. We incorporated some small steel parts into this thing actually at those contact points with the leveling system and the standoff. So it's not going to wear out over time, like where you're leveling. Screw touches the platform. There's a little piece of steel there, so it's like those are areas on these things that tend to wear out. So we address some of that, so it's gonna last forever for you. But just again, just listening to feedback on people and kind of trying to incorporate answers to that feedback, and also innovate and take certain things kind of to the next level and do something new that provides an advantage for people. But it's a cool platform. It's super easy to pack in. I love that aspect about it. Like, it just can slip into a pocket in a backpack, and you don't have any sharp edges or standoffs poking up. And I think people are really going to like that about it. And it's just super comfortable up in the tree, and a great all around option for guys.
It's a very cool idea, especially when you're trying to move around without like looking down at your feet. Like, if you got a buck in front of you, you're trying to get something done. You're just kind of trusting
Yeah.
where your feet are. The concave on that angle is awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's kind of like one of our later projects that took a little bit longer than we
Yeah.
were hoping. So we haven't even like I said, we haven't even started shipping them yet. So not a lot of people got their hands on the prototypes.
Sure.
So I'm excited to kind of get, more in the field feedback from a broader range of people. We certainly did that throughout the development process, and that's how we landed where we did with the design. But excited to kind of have some more people share that experience. And I guess last thing I'll add on it too, like, you know, getting the standoff to rotate and fold up and all that. One of the things that we didn't want to sacrifice with any of that is how stable this thing is on the tree. So it bites the tree and locks on just as good as like our speed series or really anything else that's out there. So, um, you know, the mechanism to open that up and lock it into place, it's just a simple thumb screw with a detent. It's quiet. There's no springs or clicking. It's easy to do with cold hands in the dark. And then the thing is, it's not going to move on you. So it's
Wow.
super easy. I fully understand, like, if you're apprehensive about an additional moving part, that was something we were apprehensive about too. And so we had to figure out a way to make that consistent and easy to do and not sacrifice any of the other things that we require our platforms to do in the heat of the moment. So,
That thing's awesome. Whose idea was that?
uh, Jake and I were the ones that did, the bulk of the engineering on
That's
that thing.
cool. That's just
Um,
something different, and again, more innovation. It's like you
yeah,
guys don't stop, man.
yeah.
Um,
The way Jake and I work together is a lot of times I tend to like have a vision for something that is different, and I get us down the path, and then we get these little micro problems along the way that we uncover that you can't uncover them until you get down the path because it's a new path. um, and Jake's really really good at those micro problems that um, finding solutions for them along the way. He removes roadblocks and I build the road. So uh, that's kind of how things tend to unfold when we're working on
okay.
something.
One quick question I thought of. What boots are you running? I'm still running the old big rubber Alpha Burleys here. Are
Hmm.
you still doing the rubber boot style as saddle hunting, getting you into something different? What are your thoughts on that?
In Michigan, I'm in swamps 98% of the time, so I'm in rubber boots. I've run Alpha Burleys. I think those are great. I've always had great luck with those. My current pair is, and they actually just, I think, decided to quit selling boots. And there's a new one to replace them now, but Gumleaf, they're like
I've
there's a
heard of them.
Gumleaf USA. They were made in Europe, but distributed here. And I tried a pair of those for two reasons. Just they're all rubber or mostly rubber, kind of like boots used to be made. So I'm hoping they last a long time. They seem like they are. They're like 3 years old now. And then they have a zipper down the side of them, which is really cool because in the swamps I always change my socks when I get to the tree.
Good
So
idea.
it just makes them easier to get on and off. But when I'm not in the swamps, just I like a lighter weight pair of hikers. I think I'm running a pair of Danners right now. I don't
Okay.
remember the model, but I like a more athletic cut boot. Um, not something you'd use out west that's like really stiff. I like a little bit um nothing too stiff for
Okay.
sure. You don't want to
Yeah.
get too soft because you are on your feet, but
Right.
something that's more athletic.
All right. Just something else for guys to consider. Um, Sometimes those big rubber boots can be bulky up in the tree,
Yeah.
but at the same time, you want to keep your feet dry on the way in and scent too. So it depends where you're at, I think, too. Michigan, you got to think we have to be a little bit more careful sometimes than if you're hunting Iowa or
Yeah.
something. I'm not sure, but it's my thought.
Yeah, I only have one pair of rubbers. Just I don't have a bunch of different insulated sizes. I found and the ones I use are uninsulated. That's all I
Okay.
use. I
Interesting.
don't like because I like to keep them as small and as
Yeah.
athletic as you can be in a pair of rubber boots. And like I said, I change my socks when I get to the tree so there's no moisture on the inside of the boots, and then I'll take an old pair of like extra large size wool socks and bring those, and I'll put those over like the toes of my boots with a hand warmer in there when it gets colder.
Wow.
So it's
Like
easier
over
to
the
walk
boot?
around and everything, and then I don't have to pack a bunch of extra junk to keep my feet warm.
Okay. And that hand warmer is inside the boot over your toe or outside the boot? over your
It's on
toe.
the outside of the boot in the
Cool.
sock.
Okay,
Hmm.
nice. A little
Yep.
hot tip there
So
for anybody who gets cold feet like me.
yeah, well, and the wool sock too. It's kind of, you got to kind of cut them and get a good size pair. They're kind of I mean, they're a pain in the butt to get on, but you do it once real quick. Um, they prevent any like potential squeaking or anything you might get from your rubber boots too on anything.
Do they get pretty chewed up after a while? Is there like
Oh
a
yeah, yeah.
time
That's why I
on
just wear
them?
a
Yeah.
cheap one. Yeah, I just get like a cheap pair from like a Meyer.
Yeah.
They're those ones they have every year in the fall. I forget what they're called, heat holders or something.
Okay.
Like a big wool tube sock, and I cut the tube off, and then I can kind of stretch them out and get them over. Just they're like footsies, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're kind of like something a repairman would put on coming in your house to keep your floors clean. I just put those on, and then I just stuff a hand warmer on the top of my boot underneath those.
Okay. It probably looks
So
kind of funny, but it's functional, and that's what matters, you know?
highly functional,
Highly
highly odd looking.
That's
Deer don't
what
seem to mind though, and it keeps me out there.
oh man, I have like the thickest alpha brillies you can get, like 1200 or something like
Yeah,
that. They're too much in the early season. But like they get cold. So like that's a great tip. I might try that. Um,
yeah. I mean, I didn't invent it. I've seen some other guys do it.
Great tip.
But I've done the 12, 1600 gram thin slate boots, and when you're walking in the swamp, those just don't work. Those clunkers.
Good point.
You're going down into mud where you got your feet get sucked in. So if your boot's twice the size of normal, pulling it back out, it just doesn't work very well. So
I want to
lean,
get
lean and
to the
mean.
swamp habitat. Yeah, yeah. No, I that makes perfect sense. I want to get there before we wrap this whole thing up. I want to hit your packs though, which
Yeah.
I'm super intrigued on. I think finding a pack to fit all of my saddle gear and then the self-filming stuff I normally haul around has been an issue over the
Hmm.
years. And even when you find something, it's kind of cobbled together. At least in my opinion, I've cobbled enough things together that it's just
Sure.
gear ties and everything else in all these different ways. Um, Tell me about your brand new packs. You have the Ranger 11 and the Ranger 22 here. I'm looking at on your
Yeah.
web. I want to hear
Yeah. Happy to.
where this came from.
Yeah. Happy to hit those quick. So they're both designs rooted in pack designs that Matt Tompkins had at TX5.
Yeah.
Um, we made a few subtle changes worked with him on that, but they're essentially pretty much the same thing. We beefed up some of the foams and whatnot so that it would carry just a little better. But we've been running, so the Ranger 22 is the larger of the two. That's a pack that Alex and I have been running for a while. He's been running it for almost 3 seasons, and I ran it all last year. Prototypes of them,
Yep.
and this is prior to Matt coming on board. We were just using them anyways. Um, that pack, the Ranger 22, is designed to be a 12-month out of the year pack for the mobile saddle hunter. It's an all-season pack, year-round pack. So versatility and customizability is really, kind of the two words that you could use to describe that thing. It's a perfect size for what we do. It's not too big in the early season when you're not carrying in a ton of cold weather gear, but it's got the capacity and the ability to expand the capacity so that later in the season when you do have to do that, you can do that very easily. It's very adaptable with what you're carrying in. And then even like scouting in the spring or in the summer, you can load this thing up with a ton of trail cameras and mock scrape stuff and
Yeah.
whatever tools you're bringing around, maybe to do some prep work around the farm. So it's sized to work year round in all season. That's kind of point number one. Point number two with a pack for mobile saddle hunting is it's got to carry your mobile gear well. So the mobile gear has gotten a lot lighter over recent years, but you are still carrying sticks and a platform. You're not carrying nothing. It's not a preset. So it does have to carry and ride well on your person, and you have to be able to kind of get it to fit you. So the shoulder straps, the removable belt that it has, hip belt, and then the padding on the pack, so up and down the back and the lumbar pad area, it's all really dense foam, and that's by design. So it's kind of stiff when you first get it that foam, And that's so that it carries that weight and it kind of wears into your body size and shape as you're using it. But it doesn't just immediately compress down to nothing when you put all your gear on this thing and you head out into the woods. So first and foremost, that's really important. Now the shoulder straps, you can adjust them on the top of the strap, so that they fit your body size as they kind of come around your trap area. Seems like, most backpacks, they have a fixed size. A bigger guy, they're kind of looks like a bra or nipple pinchers. It doesn't fit quite well enough. Or a little guy, he's kind of swimming in them, right? So these, you can kind of adjust them up and down so they land in the correct place and you get that weight distribution in the correct spots on your body. So that's really cool. The belt, like I said, it's removable. So I don't use the belt early season. It just pops out. And then as you're adding weight throughout the year, you can just pop it back in.
Love it.
It does have a lightweight frame. There's 2 aluminum stays built into the back side of the pack, so it can transfer load down to that hip belt when you get into those early or later parts of the year. You can even take those stays out if you want. If you feel like you don't need them early season, you can also, because they're aluminum, bend into the shape of your back, so you kind of get this thing to wear and ride really well for you. It's not quite a frame pack, but it's about as close as you can get to that in a whitetail design. So beyond that, it's got just a really awesome pocket layout, and that's just something that, through a lot of testing and trial and error, Matt was able to kind of land in just a great spot for that. So there's a ton of little pockets on the outside of this thing for quick access, easy to access items that you can get in and out of without having to totally tear apart your pack. There's one right on the top that I love to put like keys and batteries in because I can access that stuff without taking my climbing sticks off and all that. So that's really cool. It's got internal organization as well for guys that like that. Maybe items they don't take out very often, but they want to just kind of live in there and know that they're in a secure location. And then it's got the big main central compartment for your layers, which opens up like kind of like a mailbox, right? So it really opens up. So we all know as it gets cold, we're stuffing our stuff in there as tight as we can, cinching everything down. It makes it easy to get stuff back out once you're up in the tree. And then it comes with, it has both compression straps that go around the bag for lashing things down and a compression panel. So most bags have one or the other. What that allows is for, kind of versatility in how you want to carry your climbing gear. It seems like most guys do one of 2 things. Either they carry their sticks vertically on the back of the bag with the platform, either on the top or in the inside of their sticks. Or sticks on the bottom horizontally and platform on the back of the bag. You can do either really well with this thing. And then even as you get later in the year, you can put your platform on the back of the pack, let's say using the compression straps, and then put a jacket over that and use the compression panel over top of that. So there's just a lot of things you can do to get this thing to work well for your system and what you're bringing and how you like to carry it. It's got big side dump pouches on the sides everybody likes for water bottles, camera arms, cameras, lenses, all the self-filming stuff. There's grommets in both side pouches have grommets. There's also a grommet in the very bottom of the pack. So if you're like a Doyle's gear hoist guy for bringing your bow up the tree or your weapon up the tree, or just some other rope-like system, you can feed it through those, and you don't even have to take your pack off at the base of the tree to access that and clip onto the bow, and it just feeds right through. So that's that's really nice to have. I use that a lot. So it's just a great, it's a pack that does everything really well without a lot of kind of trade-offs. That's the Ranger 22. The Ranger 11 is a smaller version of it. Very similar layout. It doesn't have the compression panel, but it's got the straps, and it's got scaled down shoulder straps that are a little thinner, and that's so that there's actually a sleeve in the back side of the pack where you can tuck those in and actually get those totally out of the way.
Wow.
And that is like, this thing is really meant for more of a mobile hang-on tree stand guy that likes to run a small bag on the back of his tree stand. This works perfectly for that. If that's kind of your system, we'll integrate with another product we have coming that's right around the corner, our back straps. It's the old tree stand suspension system. It's a premium set of shoulder straps and a belt that you can mount on a hang on. That plus this bag and our compression strap kit, you can really overnight turn a hang on into a fully functional frame pack. You know, if that's what you want to do. Not everybody does that, but so you might not need all three pieces, but you can do that if you want to be able to pack something out or compress. Use the Ranger 11 to compress, like, you know, a cold weather jacket or bibs on the back of the stand going in. Works really well for that. But so that was kind of design intent number one. But it also is just an awesome. It's my favorite little scouting pack here in the summer. Like, you can load up anywhere from 5 to 9 cameras in that thing, depending on the brand. And then it's got the side dump pouches too. So I'll load the thing up with cameras, water bottle on one side, you know, mock scrape juices in the other, and you know, you're off to the races for a day. It's got a frame sheet in it. Like most little bags are really, they don't hold their shape well.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you load them up, stuff's poking you in the back. This has a very stiff frame sheet in the back. So you can load this. It's not a huge bag, but if you load it up with a lot of weight, it carries really well. You know, it kind of rides up higher on your back because it's smaller and you don't need a belt or anything. And it just, you know, you have that panel on the back, so it holds its shape and carries weight well. But it's also just it's just a fun little pack for everyday carry. You know, whether you're going on you need to carry on for your flight, fits an iPad or a smaller laptop really well. So you can use it for a bunch of things, even preset guys. You know, because you can put sticks in a platform on this thing. Like if you just want a super minimalist early season option, you can do that if you're a saddle guy. You know, but like if you're a preset tree stand guy come rut, because you got your spots, you got your pinch points that you like to rotate through. It's a smaller bag just to carry because you're not carrying as much in, so it works well for that too. So it's again, a very versatile, like it can work and address on a lot of different things. Really, the only thing it doesn't do is just the late season carrying all your cold weather gear and your climbing gear if you're a saddle guy. You know, like the Ranger 22 does really well. So a couple different options. They're both at great price points. Again, trying to make that accessible. Ranger 11's 110, Ranger 22 is 225. So we've had an initial batch of each one go up for sale here recently. The Ranger 22, they sold out in less than an hour. Wow. And the Ranger 11 sold out same day. So we're getting more very soon. And just, you know, very humbled by the response on those. It's really cool to see and really appreciate everyone's support on it. But they're just great all around bags for a lot of different scenarios.
Yeah. Well, you have me sold on the 22. I'll be buying that. It looks, I don't know. It doesn't say sold out on the website. Is it back up?
Well, I don't know. The day of this recording, we were supposed to put a batch up, so maybe they're up since we started.
It looks like the smaller one is still sold out, but I'm gonna be adding the cart here shortly. And I love how you brought it back to the hang-on guys too, even because I mean, majority of guys probably are, right? So until they start to play with this sort of gear and realize how much of an advantage you have, you can just tell by the detail when you explain every one of your products you've explained today, what goes into this stuff. It's not just a backpack you're buying for,
right,
you know, the kids at school. So I like how you're really checking boxes for every type of guy out there. Because this podcast, we have guys who do it all. So it's really cool to see that you're thinking of other people other than people who only saddle hunt. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, I mean, I think people know us as a saddle hunting equipment brand,
right?
You know, but we've really never ever said, hey, you need to be saddle hunting to be a mobile hunter, to be doing this correctly. Like we build mobile hunting gear because we're mobile hunters. We've used tree stands in the past. Like we've done it all. So you know, we want to build gear for anyone who loves the pursuit of exploring new places and trying new things and moving around to do that as a mobile hunter. Really, that's what we believe is just the mobile hunting is a mechanism to explore and have fun doing it. So yes, we we enjoy kind of offering things that solve problems for guys using whatever system they prefer, or if they bounce around through different systems throughout the year. So
Right. Right. Well, that's awesome. Are there any other products that we haven't covered today? I know you have a couple bow hangers that came out earlier this summer. Um, Anything else that you want to make sure we touch on today?
the bow hangers have been very popular for sure. We had two options. One that it's called our bite bow hanger. It's a folding aluminum, super high quality bow hanger that goes on a strap. Both of them are public land legal. So, but the bite is designed to go on a strap. It works with the latitude gear strap, but it really can work with any webbing style strap on the market. So you've already got when you're set. That was Jake's pet project last year. He's always preferred to hang his bow on something on the tree. Whereas I put a hook on the bow, and that's what our fixed bow hanger is, which is the second option. It screws a little hook made out of heavy duty aluminum, screws on the bow, weighs an ounce, and lives on the bow, and you just pop it in a loop on a gear strap. So I prefer that. It's always on the bow. Jake doesn't like something extra on his bow, and when we were kind of in the development process, everybody that we talk to definitely falls in one camp or the other, and they're not going to that other camp. So yeah, it's kind of like the camp down the road on the rifle opener that you think are a bunch of bozos that you don't want to go talk to. But so that was funny. So he kind of worked on that one. I kind of worked on the fix.
Yeah.
Both are designed to work quiver on or quiver off with your bow, no matter what you like to do up in the tree. On the bite, it's got a nice long arm on it, so you can leave that quiver on and have plenty of space between the bow and the tree for that. But if you want to take your quiver off, there's actually a little hook integrated into the bottom of the bow hanger. So you always have a dedicated place to hang that. You're not looking around in the dark as a mobile hunter trying to find a new spot every time to hang the quiver. There's always one ready to go. That hanger has a rotating standoff on the back. So the problem Jake set out to solve was he's always kind of, we'll say we're talking off air here. He always used the screw in, right? No matter kind of where he's at. Because he's worried about his bow coming off, that hook not holding his.
Yeah.
I mean, you got almost $2,000 into these bows these
$2,000 bow.
days.
Right.
Yeah, and Jake's he's Mr. Anti-risk, so he doesn't want to hang where there's any opportunity for that thing to break and that bow to fall. So that's what you get with the bite is all these public land legal strap-on bow hangers. They had a lot of side-to-side wobble. So he integrated a rotating standoff. So this thing packs up, it folds up, and you got the rotating standoff. So it packs up really small and thin. It's a high-grade extruded aluminum, so it holds a ton of weight. But because of that standoff, when you lock that thing on the tree with the strap, it's really, really solid. And that's why we call it the bite, is it really locks in and it doesn't wobble left and right. So it's as close as you can get to a screw-on with a public land legal hanger. Of the two, that one's been more popular for sure. We can't even keep those in stock. So we've got guys buying multiples just because they're worried if they lose one, but it's the type of bow hanger that it should last you forever. Seems like every other bow hanger is plastic or like clanky steel off of Amazon, and we were kind of it drove us nuts, or it drove Jake nuts, I should say, because he wanted something that was secure and durable and was going to keep his bow safe. And then we just added that hook for the quiver hanging, and people have really, really liked that so far. So fix is great though too. If you're a guy that just wants to minimize setup in the tree and know it's always there, which is me, that one's for you.
So do you hang that on a daisy chain loop around the tree then? You have one of those that you put up then?
Yeah, I use our latitude gear strap. It's got
Yeah, gear
movable
strap.
loops on it. So I put the strap on the tree, and then I can just slide the loop to wherever I want to hang my bow.
Perfect.
And it just pops into that, and it's got enough. The hook comes out just enough so that you can leave your quiver on and put it in there, and then just slide it off. I actually hunt quiver on now. Started doing that last year. Loved it.
Same.
Less to mess with in the tree. At least that's my opinion on it. So there's enough of a space for that. I mean, that's what I do, and that's the one I use. But if you take it off too, it works great for that. So Yep, it just pops into a loop.
Very nice. Very nice. So you can
So
tell you guys have been thinking of everything that you can possibly think of when you're designing these. Um, and I want to be respectful of your time. This has been awesome. We've covered a lot of good stuff here today. I do have a little bit more for you if you have a minute, but
sure thing.
anything else on the new products before we shift gears?
No, I think that hits the big highlights. I mean,
Yeah.
we've got other stuff coming out. We
Okay.
got those straps for the tree stand, calling them our back straps, and we've got a couple more little accessories that'll be later in the fall, that integrate with the saddles. So yeah, there's like I said, it's kind of the year of new product releases, so just pay attention. And seems like we got new stuff coming out every week, at least through September here, maybe even into October, depending on how things go. But um, scrambling to get it available for everybody. But appreciate everybody's support on it. There's been just an awesome response, and cool to see Matt's stuff, be able to help him get it into a few more people's hands, and that's been really fun.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm gonna wrap us up with a rapid fire question series if you're ready.
Yeah, let's do it. I
I'm
love
gonna
rapid fire.
I'm gonna shift a little bit on here because I've asked these questions a few times, but I won't tell you because I already know which one you're gonna answer on the preset blind or going mobile question. So I'm gonna omit that one. Um,
Okay.
let's start out with this favorite beverage and go.
Alcoholic beverage?
Either
Just
one,
any beverage.
whatever you want. Let's go each.
Oh, I guess non-alcoholic. I'd just be a Gatorade guy.
Okay.
Um,
Sugar free.
I buy the powder and I make it
Oh,
half strength at home.
oh,
So I don't like it out of the bottle. I think it's too sugary. I
me
like the
too.
half strength stuff. I've always done it that way.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
it's cheaper too. So I guess I'm a little frugal at heart.
Hey, if you're not Dutch, you're not much. All right. For somebody
Yeah,
saying that, so
yeah,
Dan Heath over here. Um,
yeah.
favorite venison or wild game recipe? How are you cooking your deer when you harvest that buck?
Um, I'm pretty simple. Like I like a fresh back strap on the grill with just a steak seasoning, and I prefer Weber's Chicago style
Ah,
brand steak seasoning. It's got like a little bit more of a kick. It's a black pepper based one. I'm a big black pepper seasoning guy. Um, so that you got to get the steak, put it on the steaks on both sides, fairly heavy. Get it up the room, let it sit the room temperature, then put it on the grill, preferably a pellet grill over an open flame on the pellet grill. A couple minutes each side. After the flip, got to douse it in some melted butter, brush that on, and yeah, that'll do it for me.
all right. That'll do it for me
So,
too. How about if you're out in the woods, food, water, or cover? What is most important to you? You can only pick one.
cover, cover for where I hunt for sure. I'm most comfortable in a swamp. I'm still learning other terrains, certainly. Swamps have a lot of moisture, so I think deer don't really orient towards bodies of water for as much unless it's a part of the cover plan. They can get their moisture just through browse, so definitely, definitely cover.
I love it. I was kind of rolling to your favorite habitat to hunt. If you're out there
Yeah,
scouting, say we're going up north next month, about a month away from now. What are you going to be focusing on? What's your favorite habitat? I know you like swamps, you said. So
yeah, it would
that's
be
still a good
swamps.
answer.
Yeah, the only thing I dislike about swamps is when you get into the rut, um, it can be hard to pin deer travel down into bow range. Just because there's a lot of times there's just a lot of trails they can take, and when they're meandering or they're on a doe, you know, a lot of times you have a ton of action. You can hear a lot of deer around you. I love hearing deer, moving through the swamp, but that time of the year can be frustrating for this. You have a lot of close calls that don't come to fruition just because they have a lot of options. Whereas like a hill country thing, a lot of times you can neck down into a spot that you can get kind of a bow range setup a little more consistently.
Okay, so where say you're going to a spot that's a lot of hills and some swamp, are you gonna still focus on the swamp? Are you gonna focus on the edge of where they might meet together? Take that like the next step. Where are you going for like mid-October?
For mid-October, I am if it's kind of mixed terrain of hills and swamp, I think on average an older age class buck, if that's what you're after, there's going to be a higher percentage of them if there's been any pressure at all down in the swamps. If it's unseasonably warm that time of year, I think they're going to be lean more towards being down low.
Mm-hmm.
And then that time of the year, depending on the acorn crop that year, it's going to start to thin up a little bit. And if you're a couple weeks into season, they've likely seen some pressure in a place like Michigan. So I'd be more swamp driven. I'd have to kind of read the people sign whether or not I'm going to be on the edge of the swamp or I'm going to look for that secondary edge is kind of how I think about it. Like, and usually, they're going to be bedded on one or the other. If they're just on that first edge, sometimes that's harder because they're usually set up to be able to see, and approaching them and getting close enough that time of year because they just don't move as much. It can be tough. So sometimes you almost got to bump them into the second edge, I think. Usually there's something out there that's a little bit higher ground, maybe not dry ground, but just a little bit higher ground, or just change of vegetation denoted by trees versus no trees,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. But I kind of make my living more on the secondary edges in swamps, because the big guys tend to not break that first edge in daylight if they've had any pressure. They'll just approach it from downwind and you got no shot. Just like they kind of treat it like a food source in ag country. They come at it from downwind in the evenings. And then I'm a big morning guy too. So, I like in the mid-October timeframe, I like hunting those J hooks into bed. Finding that pinch in the bedding area that on the trail or one of the two trails that a buck is more likely to use. There's a little bit easier walking usually. They can get their rack through there without having to snake through the thick stuff.
Sure.
So usually a little bit more open trail within a given bedding area on a morning on the downwind kind of corner of that bedding area, or where I might suspect the hook is going to happen. On just a little bit of a cold front, that's kind of one of my go-tos for a mid-October recipe. But
Man, we could break that whole thing down in like
yeah,
an hour right
I
there.
know, I'm
I
rambling
won't do it
again.
to you. I won't do
Yeah,
it
I
to you.
wouldn't. I'm
Okay.
not opposed to the hills. I'm poking around on dry ground more and more in Michigan.
Okay.
I think on a like when we do camp here next month, I think what's tough is if you've not pre-scouted it to go in and scout that, I think you're going to bump them down into the thick stuff anyways. So
Yeah.
you know, if you don't pre-scout it and you just go in and guess, I think you can make it happen if it looks like there's not been a lot of people in that in the nearest parking lot or something. So I don't know. Just depends on the situation, but I would always err
Yeah.
towards the thick stuff.
Yeah. Well, I like what you said there about the secondary edge. I'll kind of would explain it as like your hardwoods meets moisture would be the first edge, right?
Yeah.
And then the
Hmm.
hardwood trees, the canopy is going to suck back as you move out into the swamp. Maybe it's red osier dogwood or streamco willow or something that you get into. Then where that meets cattail, for instance, that's kind of your secondary edge. Would that be
Yeah.
okay? Are there any
Yeah. There'd be
trees out
something like
there?
an opening. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, are there any trees out there to set up in usually, or are you kind of back a little bit trying to shoot out there?
Um, yeah. I mean, you can run into situations where the best trails are really not near a tree within shooting range. I tend to err on the side of trying to pick one that is.
Yep.
And a lot of times where the trees start is creating an edge. But I also have situations where like the edge is kind of more like a lot of let's say maples, like taller, thicker, or when I say thicker, like closer together maples, and then it thins out into more.
Mm,
It could be the dogwood, it could be just swamp grass and cattails. And then you've just got like sparse here and there tamaracks coming up, and they're pretty small.
yeah.
Um, I will not shy away from having to get into one of those small trees if it's over the right trail.
Nice.
You know, those are tough situations to hunt with a camera, guys. I've learned the last couple of years. So yeah, I used to. I mean, I still do them, but usually I'm trying to just get up as high as I can, and then that's a situation where you're a statue up there and you're just swiveling your head. So hoping for the best. They're gonna see you. It's just when
Be
are they
ready.
gonna see you, and are they gonna see you move?
Yep.
So
Interesting.
those are there too. But
I love it. Well, last question. Your favorite tree. Could be to hunt out of, could be what you see going down the road, could be one in your front yard. Favorite tree.
ooh, um, man, I don't know if I have a species that's a favorite. I have a size.
Okay.
Um,
Interesting.
and it's from a hunting standpoint. And I don't get this very often, but when I do, man, you are bulletproof. And it's just a tree that is like wider than you. Um, so just a massive tree that you can barely get in. I've got one that I've hunted for years in the rut, cool little cruising spot, and that thing I have a custom set of extra long ropes for my sticks in a different color rope just so I don't mix them up, and I switch over to those when I'm going to go hunt that. Because I need like 10-foot ropes at the base of the tree, and it doesn't seem to matter what size of the side of the tree I'm on, as long as I'm not moving, they're not seeing me. And there's not even like leaf cover on it, so a a massive tree trunk that you can still just barely get in, and then if there's a little like split, a crotch, doesn't need to be a true split, just like one big branch. Um, that would be my favorite type of tree.
Awesome.
But I don't have a species preference really. I'm not unlike you, Jared. I've actually learned a lot from you. I'm not great when it comes to like vegetation, you know, naming it and all that. I've got kind of some basics, but for me it's kind of more the visual, and that's, you know, I lean towards cover hunting and been the food thing. I will admittedly say I've been getting better at thinking about food more over the years. Um, but that was traditionally a weaker part of my strategy, I'd say. So
Well, you just gotta know where the deer are, whether it's
yeah,
however you get there, however you get to that magical tree that you're in, whether you're out in the swamp or you're identifying, flora, it doesn't matter. We just gotta get there. So I learned a lot
knowing
this
your
last
food though is a big part of that. Like
it
you can
does.
I mean, there's those little like why are you seeing them in that spot every early season, right? And then it makes sense, and then you can look for that same situation more efficiently in other places. So certainly,
I would
I
agree.
would recommend you know your food better than myself, and I'm learning still. So
Well, we should do a scouting trip sometime because I could learn a lot as well. I think the last 5 minutes here in this non-rapid fire question segment that was supposed to be rapid fire was another great set of tips and tricks there. So really
yeah,
appreciate it, man. I do want to be respectful of your time. I already had you for quite a bit today. So anything else, Kevin? Feel free to plug everything. We do that for you anyways. But whatever you wanna to get across to the listenership. And this will go out this weekend, so be ready to go.
yeah. No, I really appreciate you having me on, Jared. It's fun catching up here. The only other thing I'll mention is just the guys on the team, and I don't do any of the production. I'm just once in a while on camera. The Grit season 2 is coming here really soon here in
Yes.
September.
Yes.
I think they're going to have like 10 episodes this season. Don't quote me on that. I think we had 6 or 7 last year. So it's starting obviously a little bit later than last year. We've just been busy with all the new product, and you know, the guys that build all the content around that have been that sucked up some of their time. So Aaron and Derek and Alex and Corey and all those guys are going to have that out here soon, and I'm just as excited as everybody else. I think to see that. I'm a fan of the show, even though I'm on it here and there. I'm not going to be on it a lot for season 2 because I was busy, but um, yeah, look for that. I guess is what I would say. That'll be really
Awesome.
fun. It'll drop here just as we're getting ramped up here for those October 1st openers.
Can't wait, man. Well, hey, thanks again. Really appreciate your partnership with us at the Habitat Podcast. So thank you very much, and look forward to spending camp with you here a couple weeks. So.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jared. Looking forward to it as well. Should be awesome.